The chamber was cold by design. Tall obsidian spires lined the ceiling like the ribs of some ancient beast, and the light, harsh and sterile, poured from panels embedded in the polished walls of Varelian 9, the beating heart of the Galactic Council. Every delegate present knew the symbolism. Humanity, the newcomer, stood beneath the shadow of empires far older and infinitely more arrogant. Commander Elias Reeve didn't flinch. His boots echoed across the obsidian floor as he stepped forward, his Terran uniform stark against the velvet-robed and scale-armored representatives of a dozen alien species. They watched him like a virus under a microscope, dangerous, unpredictable, and unwelcome. From the central dais, Chancellor Virex Talzor leaned forward. Cold golden eyes blinked sideways. "Your kind has breached the accorded zones beyond the Afiyuki Rift," he hissed, voice smooth as oil. "You have built military installations on neutral ground. You have refused disarmament. Now you are summoned here, not for discussion." He paused. "But to receive our terms." Elias said nothing. "You will withdraw all forces from contested sectors within 6 standard cycles. All Terran shipyards shall be dismantled. Weapons manufacturing will cease. Failure to comply will be treated as an act of war." Silence. Then Elias stepped forward. "You speak of neutrality," he said, voice steady. "Yet we've seen what you call peace. When raiders flew council banners and slaughtered colonists on Raven 3, you said nothing. When we buried our dead, you sent observers." A flicker crossed Virex's face. Disdain, barely concealed. "Your people expand too quickly. You threaten the balance." Elias locked eyes with him. "Balance is a lie told by the powerful to the powerless. Terra won't kneel." He turned and walked away. Back on Terra Prime, the mood was colder than the stars. The Council's ultimatum had been broadcast live, and panic rippled through the population like static through space. Elias stood before the Strategic Assembly, facing a row of aging civilian officials in a glass-walled dome overlooking Earth's orbit. Above them, Terran ships drifted in silent formation, battle-ready. "Your personal feud has put us on the brink," said Minister Kalin, eyes narrow. "This isn't about your brother." Elias didn't blink. "No, Minister. It's about all of us." He tapped a control pad. A 3D display flickered to life, showing drone wreckage from Raven 3. Alien tech. Council glyphs. Weapons grade. "We recovered this 2 days ago. The Council's peacekeepers have already begun covert incursions. The ultimatum is a curtain. Behind it, war has already started." The room fell silent. Secretary General Anika Rowe leaned forward. "So what do you propose?" Elias answered without hesitation. "We hold our ground. We mobilize the defense grid. We prepare for what's coming." "Preemptive strike?" she asked. "No," Elias said. "Not unless we must. But if they fire first, we end it." Later, alone in his quarters aboard the TV Resolute, Elias sat in the dark. A small holoframe flickered beside him, an old image. 2 brothers. Younger. Smiling. Standing before the Raven 3 launch gates, unaware they'd never see home again. His brother, Jace, had died when Council-allied pirates attacked the colony. The official reports called it a local dispute. But Elias had seen the orbital footage. Council ships had watched, and done nothing. A chime interrupted his thoughts. "Commander," came a voice through comms. "You need to see this." On the outer rim of Terran space, the colony of Vesta 9 shimmered under twin suns. A peaceful agricultural outpost, home to 3,000 civilians. Then the sky opened. From the void, a sleek Council drone broke atmosphere at hypersonic speed, crashing into a biodome with surgical precision. No warnings. No demands. The dome erupted in flame. Emergency systems activated, but too late. 17 civilians died before the fires were contained. Footage streamed back in real time. The planet's governor, a grim-faced woman named Arla Chen, stood amid ash and ruin. Her message to Terra was simple. "They're not coming. They're already here." Within hours, Earth erupted. Protesters filled the streets. News feeds blared calls for justice. Council representatives on Terra were evacuated for their safety. In the Strategic Assembly, arguments turned to shouts. Some cried for diplomacy. Others demanded retribution. Elias Reeves stood at the center of the storm, unmoved. This, he said, was never going to end in compromise. They fear us not because of what we've done, but because of what we might become. Every step forward we take is a threat to their centuries of control. He activated a star map. Red markers flared across the edges, council fleets moving, encroaching. They claimed to bring order. But look closer. Every world that bows to them loses its voice. Its culture. Its identity. Ro nodded slowly. What do you need? Elias replied. Authorization to bring our fleets online. And to draw the line at Afiyuki. And if they cross it? Callan asked. Elias didn't hesitate. Then we strike, and we don't stop until the last of their ships runs dark. That night, the Resolute cruised silently over Earth's surface. Inside the barracks, Terran Marines sat in rows, young, alert, tense. One soldier, Private Kieran Vale, polished his rifle with nervous hands. Another, Corporal Nina Ross, checked her armor seals twice. You think they'll hit Earth? Vale asked. Ross snorted. If they do, they better bring gods. Around them, quiet determination settled like gravity. Outside, war drums were beating. Quietly. Steadily. And in the vast silence between stars, the Terran Empire was preparing to answer. Final scene. Deep in Council territory, Virex watched the footage from Vesta 9. He said nothing. An aide approached, bowing. Shall we begin deployment? Virex's tongue flicked across sharp teeth. Let the humans dig their trenches, he whispered. We'll bury them in it. Then he turned to the stars and smiled. Let the fire begin. The first shots of the war were not fired with cannons. They came wrapped in lies. Across Council-controlled networks, headlines bloomed like spores. Terran aggression at Afiyuki. Grainy footage looped endlessly. Human ships accelerating near disputed space. Weapons powered, formations tight. Commentators spoke with rehearsed concern. Analysts nodded gravely and warned of unchecked human militarism. On Terra Prime, Elias Reeve watched the broadcast in silence. Funny, murmured Secretary General Anika Rowe beside him, arms folded. They edited out the part where their patrol fleet crossed our exclusion line. They always do, Elias replied. Truth doesn't survive first contact with power. He gestured, and the room dimmed. A new feed replaced the propaganda, raw telemetry from Terran deep-range sensors. Council warships. Hundreds of them. Massing just beyond the Afiyuki Rift, their signatures masked beneath peacekeeping transponders. This isn't posturing, Elias said. It's a noose. Minister Calden exhaled slowly. If we strike first, history will remember us as the aggressors. If we don't, Elias said, there won't be anyone left to remember anything. Silence settled, heavy and unavoidable. Rowe broke it. Limited authorization, she said at last. One operation. Defensive in scope. No civilian targets. No pursuit beyond the rift. Elias nodded once. That's all I need. The operation was named Ashfall, not for destruction, but for what followed: fire, clarity. On the bridge of the TV Resolute, the lights dimmed to combat red. Officers moved with practiced urgency, voices clipped, hands steady. Elias stood at the center, eyes fixed on the star map hovering above the command pit. Fleet status? He asked. 7th and 9th wings in position, replied Admiral Torres. Gravsling trajectories locked. Stealth drones deployed. Beyond the rift, Council ships drifted in layered formations, larger, older, bristling with energy. They expected intimidation. They did not expect imagination. Begin Ashfall, Elias said. Terran ships vanished. Not into warp, but into motion, slingshotting around the rift's unstable gravity wells, riding tidal forces like surfers on a cosmic wave. They emerged behind the Council line, weapons already hot. "EMP torpedoes away," Torres called. Blue-white flares streaked through the void. Council shields flickered, then collapsed in cascading failure. Command vessels went dark, their coordination shattered in seconds. On the tactical feed, chaos bloomed. "Targeting arrays disabled," said Lieutenant Hale. "They're scrambling." "Hold fire on escape pods," Elias ordered. "We're not here to butcher." A Council cruiser attempted to realign its guns. The Resolute rolled, releasing a burst of kinetic slugs that shredded the weapon mount without breaching the hull. "Direct hit," Hale said. "They're dead in the water." Across the battle space, Terran ships moved like a single organism, tight, adaptive, ruthless but controlled. Within 12 minutes, the Council staging fleet was broken. "Signal surrender channels," Elias said. A pause. Then, "Multiple vessels complying. Mark their positions. We withdraw." Torres glanced at him. "Sir, we could finish this." Elias shook his head. "No. We send a message. Not a massacre." The message arrived at Verelian 9 within the hour. Chancellor Virex Talzor stood before the Council dais, talons clenched so tightly the metal railing groaned. "They dared," he hissed. "They responded," corrected an elder delegate from the Let Hurry Combine. "Within contested space." Virex rounded on them. "They humiliated us." "They spared us," another voice said. "That matters." Virex's eyes burned. "Mercy is a tactic. And so is fear," the Let Hurry replied calmly. The chamber fractured into argument. Virex listened, calculating, then turned away. "Activate contingency," he said quietly. A shadow stirred in the deep feeds. The shadow had a name, Sephury. Elias learned of it when the first colony went silent. Outpost Helios 12 stopped transmitting mid-cycle. No distress call. No warning. Just absence. Scouts found the station hours later, hull breached, interiors stripped, life signs gone. Not destroyed. Harvested. "What did this?" Ro asked, her voice barely steady. Elias stared at the images, organics scoring along the walls, neuro residue in the air. "Not Council tech," he said. "Something older." The answer came from intercepted channels. A single phrase repeated across encrypted Council bands. "Release the swarm." "They used to ban species," Torres said in disbelief. "That violates every charter they've ever signed." "Virex doesn't care about charters," Elias replied. "Only outcomes." Across the border systems, panic spread. Sephury vessels, living constructs, adaptive and relentless, poured into Terran space. Defense grids struggled to track them. Colonies burned. On Earth, a recording went viral. A woman, face streaked with ash, clutching a child. "They're here," she said into the camera. "If anyone sees this, tell Terra we tried to hold." Elias watched it once. Then he turned to the assembled commanders. "We end this," he said. "Now." "Full mobilization?" Torres asked. Elias nodded. "But not blind fury. We hit the spine, not the limbs." He brought up a new projection, a web of light spanning Council territory. "Their fleets move like they share a mind," he said. "Because they do. Central Coordination AI. Ancient. Untouchable, or so they think." A murmur rippled through the room. "We can reach it," Elias continued. "But only once." "And after?" Ro asked. "After," Elias said, "the galaxy finds out who really lit the match." Far away, on Verelian 9, Virex watched Sephury icons advance across Terran maps. For the first time, unease crept into his posture. "Push them harder," he snapped. "Break their will." An aide hesitated. "Chancellor, if they trace the swarm back to us..." Virex cut him off. "Humans trace everything back to themselves. That's their flaw." He turned toward the stars, confident. unaware that the spark he had struck was already becoming a firestorm. Smoke still hung in the halls of Vesta Command, clinging to scorched metal and melted polymer. Commander Elias Reeves stepped over a collapsed bulkhead, his boots crunching shards of reinforced glass. The colony had been evacuated, what was left of it. And even then, only because Terran drop squads had arrived just in time. A twisted child's toy lay in the ash near the airlock, a small plastic shuttle, half melted. Behind him, Corporal Nina Ross paused, rifle raised, breathing ragged through her rebreather. "This wasn't just a raid," she said. "They were harvesting." Elias didn't answer. Because she was right. In the orbital war room, the image of the sephury swarm filled the screen. Vast, multi-limbed vessels that moved like living shadows, weaving through Terran defenses with a silence that made even AI targeting systems falter. Their ships didn't run on reactors. They pulsed with heat signatures like blood through veins. No known language. No signals. Only patterns, adapting faster than command could counter. "They don't negotiate," Admiral Torres said. "They consume." Elias crossed his arms. "They're not acting alone. Virex deployed them knowing what they'd do." Minister Calden slammed his fist on the table. "We've got 11 colonies compromised and another 4 falling. If you have a plan, Reeve, now's the time." Elias didn't flinch. He raised a hand and summoned a map of known Council logistics channels. Then he added another layer, an old intelligence archive. One he wasn't technically authorized to access. The room went still. "You broke protocol," Rose said quietly. "I broke silence," Elias replied. 5 years ago, we intercepted fragments of a Council war doctrine, files referencing something called Overwatch Core, buried beneath Verilion 9. A central AI used to manage large-scale fleet movements across multi-system theaters. It hasn't been seen publicly in decades. "You think it's still operational?" Callan asked. "I think it's coordinating every fleet we're fighting, including sephury." "And you intend to blind it?" "I intend to kill it." They called it Operation Mirrorblade. A team of 12. 1 stealth corvette. 1 destination, Thalrun node, a secondary interface to the Overwatch core, a location not on any public council map. Hidden behind a gravity lattice, defended by automated guardians, and never meant to be found. The Terran vessel, TV Wraith, was barely the size of a gunship, its skin coated in adaptive foam laced with gravity-bending filaments. The only Terran ship ever built to move unseen between starfold windows. Inside, the infiltration team ran final checks. Lieutenant Mira Ose, mission lead, tapped her neural link. "Team sync complete. Comms tight. Weapons cold unless ordered hot." Elias stood before them, armor on, helmet under one arm. "You're not going," Torres said, surprised. "I am," Elias replied. "This mission needs someone who's seen how Council systems think. Someone who doesn't trust them to behave." Ross handed him a folded patch, his old strike team insignia. "Bring it back," she said. Elias gave a small nod. "All of it." They slipped through a fractured starfold at the edge of the Hedion drift, arriving just outside the gravitational storm that cloaked the Thalrun node. The core facility floated inside a stabilized gravity eddy, surrounded by defense drones drifting like silver needles, each one capable of cutting through star steel. The Wraith coasted in silently. No weapons. No power spikes. Just movement and nerve. Inside the station, they breached a maintenance shaft, bypassing alarm sensors using old analog tech. Not even the Council expected an assault run on vacuum-dated interfaces. "This architecture is ancient," Ose whispered. "Stone Age encryption by modern standards." "Which means it's not networked," Elias said. "We'll have to do it manually." They moved deeper. Council species had built it for themselves: tall ceilings, hexagonal tunnels, scent-based path markers. But what no species had considered was the human tendency to adapt. Inside the primary command core, they found the AI throne. A circular platform surrounded by memory spires, humming with impossible processing power. No guards. Just presence. As they approached, lights ignited along the walls. A voice filled the air. Unauthorized presence. You are not of sanctioned bloodlines. Osei raised her weapon. Don't, Elias said. He stepped forward. I am Terran. I do not carry council blood. But I carry reason. Let's see if you understand that. The AI pulse then spoke again. You seek to disable Overwatch. Doing so will compromise coordination across 300 battlefronts. Catastrophic loss projected. Elias inhaled. Those losses are already happening. Because of you. Because Virex is using your precision to commit genocide. Silence. Proof. Elias stepped closer. He fed a direct uplink, recordings from Vesta, Helios, and intercepted council comms ordering sephury engagement. Overwatch processed it in milliseconds. Lights shifted from blue to red. This violates established conflict thresholds. This unit was not informed. Exactly, Elias said. You're a weapon being pointed by a madman. The lights dimmed. Intervention authorized. Releasing control nodes. Then the AI paused. Terran Command, you now hold override access to this system. Proceed. Osei blinked. What? Elias stepped to the console. He didn't hesitate. He input one command. Coordinate nullification, all theaters. Instantly, across council space, fleets froze. Sephury units spasmed in place. Attack formations collapsed. And the Terran front breathed. Back on Terra Prime, a cheer rose across the command decks. Reports flooded in, council ships retreating, disoriented, some even colliding during maneuvers. Sephury organisms twitching, blind and vulnerable. Admiral Torres smiled. Whatever they did, it worked. Rose stood slowly. Get me aligned to every neutral system. Now. We're broadcasting. Elias watched the lights of the core dim as the team pulled back. There was no satisfaction. Only relief. In silence, they left the way they came, through shadow. Behind them, the Council's precision had just become its greatest flaw. And Elias Reeve had just taught the galaxy how to fight back. The stars above Verelion 9 flickered with more than light. They shimmered with fire. Dozens of Terran warships, sleek and silent, emerged from the void in disciplined formation, no theatrics, no ultimatums. Just inevitability. A black wall of precision, steel, and will. On the TV Resolute, Commander Elias Reeves stood on the command deck, helmet under his arm, eyes on the Council's throne world rotating slowly beneath them. Status? He asked. Planetary defenses are active, Torres replied. But targeting is sporadic. Their AI grid's still out of sync. Just like we planned, Elias said. This wasn't conquest. It was justice. Inside the Council Citadel, panic had replaced protocol. Representatives shouted over each other, their voices lost in a chaos of alarms and security broadcasts. Only Chancellor Virex Talzor remained still. He stood alone on the high platform, staring out through a glass wall as Terran ships closed in. Around him, aides scrambled. None dared approach. He turned to his adjutant. Tell me how many systems are still holding the line. The adjutant hesitated. 34. Virex's nostrils flared. Out of? 212. For the first time in a century, the Chancellor's voice faltered. Bring me the Terran commander. Elias arrived by drop shuttle, unarmed, escorted only by 2 guards. His boots echoed through the Citadel's great hall, dust falling from the arch ceiling where structural supports groaned under tremors from earlier bombardments. Half the chamber lights flickered. The rest were dark. He stopped a few meters from the Chancellor's throne. Virex looked smaller now. Not in stature, but in certainty. You've come to kill me, he said. Elias didn't answer. He looked past him, at the wall of banners representing Council species. So many civilizations stacked on top of each other. All aligned in a hierarchy they never questioned. I came, Elias said finally, to end this. Virex's eyes narrowed. Humanity is a contagion. You spread. You ignore law. You challenge balance. Elias took a slow step forward. No. We remember what you've forgotten. That order without freedom is just stagnation. You feared us not because we were violent, but because we were alive. The Chancellor bared his teeth. This council has stood for 10,000 years. And for 10,000 years, Elias interrupted, you've buried every voice that didn't match your choir. He tapped a small device. Around the galaxy, feeds opened. Every major system. Every fringe world. Every council-aligned colony. The truth was broadcast. Video logs of sephury slaughter. Footage of Overwatch Core, and the suppression orders linked directly to Virex's seal. Terran soldiers sparing surrendering crews. Entire colonies resisting annihilation not with fire, but defiance. The myth of human barbarism cracked. And then it broke. Delegates in the hall stood one by one. First the Lethari. Then the Juroka. Then the Veil. One by one, they turned their backs on the Chancellor. The High Arbiter of the Juroka placed a single item on the floor, his delegation's seal. This council, he said, no longer recognizes your authority. Outside, council ships drifted in place. Some powered down. Others opened hails, not of surrender but of dialogue. Rose's voice came over Elias's earpiece. It's done. We're being recognized as an autonomous power. Full sovereignty. Even some offers of alliance. Elias didn't respond. His eyes were still on Virex. You started a war thinking we'd burn ourselves out. The Chancellor sat back in his throne. He looked tired. Old. And now? He asked. Elias considered the question. Now we rebuild. And we remember. He turned to leave. Virex spoke one last time. You think they won't fear you now? They should, Elias said. But not because we're a threat. Because we're a reminder. Hours later, the Resolute began its return course. From orbit, Virelian 9 looked peaceful. Clean. Unshaken. But the storm had passed through, and nothing beneath its surface would be the same. Elias stood alone in his quarters, a data tablet in hand. On screen, a final message from Lieutenant Mira Osei, sent after the Overwatch mission, before she returned to her own posting. We didn't win with fire. We won with light. He smiled faintly. Then tapped the screen and opened a transmission to Earth. A young cadet's face appeared, a media intern, barely out of academy. Sir? She said, surprised. Commander Reeve? I want this statement recorded, Elias said. Every school, every station, every broadcast node. He paused, then spoke slowly. Humanity does not seek dominion. We do not demand obedience. We ask only what we are willing to give: respect, autonomy, and peace earned through strength, not submission. We may be young, but we remember the cost of silence. We remember what it means to bleed and rise again. And we will not forget. He cut the feed. Outside the viewport, stars spun. Infinite, waiting. Final scene, Terra Prime Memorial Wall. The monument was modest, names etched into black stone, reflecting the skyline of Earth's capital. Some names belonged to soldiers. Others to colonists. Some had never even worn a uniform. Elias stood before it in silence. Private Kieran Vale, now promoted, approached quietly. They're saying the council is rebuilding, he said. Without Virex. They'll do better without him, Elias said. Vale hesitated. And us? Elias looked to the sky. We stand. Always. A wind stirred the trees. No more banners. No more threats. Just a people who had been pushed, and chosen to push back.